Hi, and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the Brian Walshe trial and more so focusing on the verdict. So the trial has ended and justice has been served for Ana Walshe. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into that. This has been a topic that me and Beckham have talked about quite a bit, as well as the Liz for the weekly True Crime and Chill. So in regards to the background before the trial, we're not going to dive too deep into that tonight, but just give a little bit of a recap just for anybody who has not been following the case. Beckham will be in the chat tonight, so y'all can breathe easy. At least I know I am. So before we jump into that, as always, if you are not following me on the different social media platforms that I am on, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of the information is down below. So make sure to do that. In regards to, I'm just trying to think here what I'm updating stuff. The part 3 of Cutting to the Truth, Jay Sebring by Anthony D. Maria and Marshall Terrell. We are working out the date for part 3, so stay tuned for that. And that will be focused quite a bit on the aftermath of the trial and the parole hearings, as well as Marshall and Anthony will be taking your questions. So once I have a date for that, I will do a post and then say if you guys have any questions, comment on that, so that we can definitely get those questions added to the docket for the show. Obviously, it's a live show, so if questions pop up, do that. But for sure, if you want your questions answered, make sure to let us know beforehand so we can get those on the docket ready to go, because quite a bit of you, I think, have questions for them. I mean, the book has so much information, but this case is one that kind of has captured everyone. So stay tuned for that. In regards to book club, with Thursday, the last Thursday of the month being a bit of a holiday, we're going to do book club the last Tuesday of the month. And let me just get you guys that date. That is Tuesday, December 30th. So that will be the book club show, and we are doing the book on the Menendez brothers. I have not finished yet. I think I'm about a third of the way through. So if anybody else, again, wants to participate in that and either be in the chat, or if you've read the book and be on camera, let me know. And yeah, the more the merrier. It's also a great thing that what I've really been noticing for book club, which is really, really cool, is so many of you guys will either message me or comment on it saying that you've either purchased this book because of the book club review, or maybe you kind of realized it wasn't something that you were interested in kind of following up on yourself, which is, again, better to kind of know that before you purchase a book. But I know I do that with other content creators, especially those that review true crime books. If I see their review and I'm just like, all right, I was on the edge of purchasing that book, now it's going in my cart and I'm ordering that tonight. So I love that myself as a true crime reader. So I'm glad you guys get something out of that as well. So again, that will be the last Tuesday of the month. In regards to, thank y'all for earlier in the week. I was going to do a show, but had to postpone that. So I did do a post that one of my cats has been sick. So y'all, it's been quite a couple of months, but I know we're all, animal people here. So just to kind of update y'all. So let me think, maybe now a month and a half ago, going on 2 months, maybe. I don't know. Time goes so quickly. So Cosmo has had to go to the emergency vet because what's been noticed is, so he had been super, super hungry all the time, but losing weight, which is not good. He's 13. So after blood work and an ultrasound of all that, just to rule out all the stuff, it was IBD, which I'm like, okay, better than something terminal. Okay. And his brother has that too, which he too got diagnosed maybe a year or 2 years ago. So it's like, okay, we'll address this. This will be addressed. So then Selena Selena in the last week stopped eating, and she's the friendly one. She's the gray one that will kind of pop up here in the back, usually when I do my shows. And she loves her food. She loves her food, and she stopped eating. So it was like, oh gosh. So took her to the vet. She had a fever, so put on antibiotics and whatnot. And then still just didn't eat meal after meal, day after day. It's like, okay, you can't let that go too long with the pet, right? So blood work at the vet would have taken a few days. So it was like, the vet was like, no, you got to go to the emergency vet and get the answer soon. So it's like, all right, take her to the emergency vet. And she has inflammation on her inside. Again, nothing terminal, like thank goodness, but IBD. So, and it's interesting because, of course, I'm saying to the vet, like, is this, I don't know a ton about it. I know a bit of enough because Tuca has it, but I don't know in regards to the odds of 3 of my 6 cats having it. It is not due to my food. It is just one of those luck of the draw. So it's like, oh my gosh. So switched their food completely to a single source protein diet, which they all seem to really like, because then again, it's like, hey, new food, this is a treat. But so that should help kind of things going forward. And then poor Selena, on top of that, so she's getting better. So I'm like, okay, like, should I do the show on Tuesday? Should I not? She's prone to upper respiratory infections. She got an upper respiratory infection. I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. And when she gets that, she stops eating. It has to go to the emergency vet for like fluid, and it's just like, oh my gosh. But I think that I caught it so quickly because she was separated in regards to, me wanting to monitor how much she's been eating. So I caught it so quickly, got to the vet right away. We got her on a round of meds. So I love how I say we, as in like she's a participant in this. Trust me, she would rather not be taking any of the pills that she has had to. But the upper respiratory has been staying kind of at bay, but I've been like on top of it to make sure it doesn't take that turn where it's like, all right, back to the hospital we go. So, and again, I say we as though like she has a choice in all of this. But yeah, so I've been spending a lot of my time with her. She's been quarantined from the rest of the cats. And you know how it is when you have a pet and they're not doing well and they feel sick, and it's just, oh, your heart breaks. So that's what my like last week and a half has been, is attending to her, and making sure she doesn't get worse and really monitoring her. So again, that's why I didn't do a show earlier this week. Tonight was, as Beckham will attest, it was like, am I doing a show? Am I not? And I'm like, it really depends on her. It really depends on how my cat's doing. So she's doing a little bit better. So she's getting some rest right now, but that's what's going on. So, and thank so many of you guys as well. A few people commented on that community post that I did that my cat wasn't doing well. I got several emails, several DMs from y'all, and like, thank you. I made sure to get back to everybody. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. I mean, we're all pet people here, right? Whether we have pets of ourselves now, or it's, you grew up with animals, like we get it. And it means so much. So I just want to personally say thank you all for that, for the love. And I definitely made her know that she is very loved. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, let's see who's here tonight, and we will just kind of go from there. Beckham first. Yeah. Can everybody take note of this? When he's on camera and is supposed to be on time, 30, 40 minutes late? But he's like, I'm not going to be on tonight, and he's before, like, thank you, Beckham. Hey, Kane. Tony Stewart. Hello. Sync issue for a second. Was that me or was that you? I don't know. I do have sometimes very shoddy Wi-Fi, so it could most likely be me. I got the book at the library last week. Kane, I love that. How are you enjoying it so far? How are you enjoying it? Like I said, I'm about a third of the way through. I plan to just crush the rest this coming week with the holiday week. I'm not watching Oklahoma for Silva. Tony Stewart, I love your priorities, but at the same time, like I know y'all with sports. Go watch sports. If that's what your thing is, please. I guarantee that's what Beckham's doing. Guarantee it. Hey, Corey Novak, good to see you. Let's see. Did you see? Yes, K-Dog. I mean, how could I not? And I'm going to address that in a second. We'll talk about that in a hot second because I do have something to say about that. Charlie16, hello, good to see you. Yes, Cosmo is, again, I know I just did an update. Cosmo and Selena they're doing better. And it's, of course, like one eats way too much and is losing weight, and then the other one is stopped. It's like, and it's the same exact thing. It's wild. But they really like the new food. Really like the new food. But again, it's like new. But it is what it is. But thank you so much. Absolutely not. I thought that Tony Stewart was emailing to Annie this week. I heard through the grapevine. Did you now? Well, if it's said on the internet, then it must be true, right? Hi, Steve Harris. Good to see you, hon. Hope you're doing well. Okay, it was me. That's fair. Probably. All right, K-Dog. Let's get back to this. Where's the comment? Okay. So this has been quite a bit of buzz right now. I know this really wasn't on, like, we're not doing a traditional true crime and chill this week. We're going to be talking Brian Walshe, but let's chat about it. If y'all want to talk about it, we're going to talk about it too. So his attorney, for those who have not heard, is Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson was one of the defense attorneys in the Karen Read trial. So I will say, I am shocked that people are shocked that Alan Jackson is the attorney for a variety of reasons. One, people are saying, wait a minute, he's still helping Karen Read with the civil trial. So how does he have time? So to debunk that, Alan Jackson is just assisting with the civil trial. He is not one of the lead attorneys in that. So he's a little bit removed, or has a step back, if you will, on that end. But the main thing that everybody's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And I don't know why. The Karen Read trial, honestly, seems to be one of the outliers. If you look back at Alan Jackson's career and who he has represented, Karen Read's a bit of an outlier. And that's what's kind of surprising to me, because if you go back, he has an impressive resume as a defense attorney. Impressive. And I've heard of him before he came on the Karen Read trial, not to the extent that we got to know him from that, but he has represented quite a few high-profile people that, if y'all look it up, and I'm saying that because I want people to look it up and to do the research and kind of see for themselves, like, oh, wow, he has represented all these other celebrity cases. He's a celebrity attorney. He's a Hollywood celebrity attorney. And I don't mean that in a way to diminish it. I mean, he's amazing. I have nothing but respect for Alan Jackson. But this is the type of cases that he takes on. And again, the Karen Read one was a bit of an outlier. So I want to be like, people, like, this is what he does. He represents high profile cases, and he's very good at it. Very, very good. So with that being said, does this make me have a little bit more of an interest in this case than I would have ordinarily? Honestly, a little bit. It does. That Alan Jackson will be representing him. I think Alan Jackson is amazing at his job, and I want to see where this goes as the trial will go. I mean, who knows right now when the trial will be. I believe he's supposed to be arraigned, was it January 7th or 8th, I want to say. But we will see. And that's something we will kind of talk about as it unfolds, because a lot of people are interested in it in this case for a variety of reasons. And we will definitely talk about it. But I know I just gave quite a bit of a long answer for that, K-Dog. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on with that. Let's see. K-Dog, I've been around animals my whole life. Had to put some down, even had to shoot her. Oh my gosh. Had one of the smaller kitties go into convulsions. Oh, K-Dog. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine. I'm sure it freaked you out. I hope Kitty is okay. I really do. Yeah, absolutely, Tony. I know we're not talking about Alan Jackson, we're talking about Nick. There's a lot to unfold, and I think a lot more will come out. So as I kind of say with so many cases that happen, like when things first hit, the media goes crazy, and a lot of times it's bullshit. So like, give it a day, give it 2 days, let the bullshit fizzle away, and then we will learn more. But yeah, from what has kind of stuck so far from what I've been seeing, K-Dog, there seems to be quite a bit of substance abuse as well as mental health that was going on with Nick. So, I mean, I think we can all confidently say those two will play a big part in the trial when that does go to trial. So we'll see. And no, Tony Stewart, not Alan Jackson, the country star. Somebody at my work when I was saying about this, they're not like wicked into true crime enough, but not like Danny level into true crime. Then again, who is? And I mentioned Alan Jackson being the attorney, and she said, like, I keep having to like remember, not the country singer. And I'm like, definitely not the country singer. But it was such a funny comment. K-Dog, I'm so glad to hear that. Honestly, I'm so glad to hear that for your cat's sake and for you too. So I got you. I feel you on that. So I'll just address it now because I know everybody's been talking about it. And my phone has been like going off left and right, left and right, left and right. Mostly by Paul and Beckham, but the Epstein files. So quite a bit has been released so far today that people have been kind of going through, and pictures and stuff everywhere. We'll talk about it. I want to get more information, and I think kind of as maybe this week unfolds, we will kind of all have a better handle on it. But I didn't want to not address the elephant in the room in regards to like a lot of the pictures that have now been circulating and whatnot. And yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about, folks. We will have a lot to talk about. And I totally just realized that the camera is way more focused on like the closet than normally. So my apologies on that. Hi, James. Hello. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So, all right, Brian Walshe. So again, this is something that we have talked about quite a bit on like the True Crime and Chill kind of leading up to this. So it has been a lot about what's in the closet. Honestly, a lot of show stuff, like nothing exciting, absolutely nothing exciting. Show stuff like equipment, dance stuff. That's where I keep, a lot of my like dance, I don't want to say costumes because that sounds like so like childish, but like performance outfits for upcoming shows that we have, extra cat carriers because with 6 cats, your girl's got to have 6 carriers because you never freaking know. So nothing fun, absolutely nothing fun. Beckham. I cannot confirm or deny that he is trapped in my closet, but you know what? Let's just keep, is he there? Is he not? He said he was in the chat and then he wasn't. Who can say? Who can say? So just to give a quick recap on Brian Walshe. So as we go back, so January 1st, 2023 is when Ana had been last seen. The Walshes had a little bit of a New Year's Eve party the night before with one of Ana's friends, and he left after midnight. So the thing is, Brian Walshe did not report Ana missing. Her coworkers at Tishman Speyer had to report her missing days later. And of course, when police contact Brian Walshe saying, we got a report that no one's seen Ana. And of course it's like, oh yeah, I was going to get around to calling you guys type of thing. And it's just like, all right, They have 3 children. And at the time, it was 3 boys under 6. So no mother is going to leave her 3 children and not talk to them for days on end. Like, she loved those children and wanted to move them to DC where she worked, and would fly back and forth from. So there's just, yeah, not possible. So what Brian had told police after police were like, hey, we found out word that no one has seen Ana. So he said that he that morning got up and Ana she got up before him, kind of kissed him goodbye and said there was an emergency back at work in DC and she had to take a ride share to go there. So that they kissed and then he went back to sleep because it was super, super early in the morning. And that she left for the airport between like 6 and 7 a.m. However, the iPad searches. Cue in the iPad searches. And keep in mind, the iPad was his 6-year-old son's iPad that he did these searches on. So the searches, and if you want to go back, we've read it before on the show, like all of the searches that he's done. It's like 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. How long for someone to be missing to inherit. How to clean blood from a wooden floor, right? So in regards to other things that he looked up, what's the rate of decomposition, things like that. So very telling searches. His cell phone data tracked him driving around the state of Massachusetts. And keep in mind, he was supposed to be on house arrest for art fraud. He was going to be sentenced in the art fraud case. That is something we've talked about as well. So, I mean, he's just a lifelong con, to put it very simply. And the cell phone data revealed kind of where he had been. So when security footage from all the stores he went to or apartment complex buildings, footage was taken from there, it was shown a mix of things. One, that he was going into stores like Home Goods, Lowe's, CVS, Walgreens, Stop and Shop, all these stores buying stuff. And we'll get a bit into those purchases in a second. But also in regards to dumpsters, he was going, like different buildings and complexes. He was going up to the dumpsters. He's on camera and he's chucking a lot of things in, and some of the bags are very heavy. A lot of these bags, most of them have not been recovered, will never be recovered, because as we know, once trash pickup happens, it goes to the incinerator. But law enforcement was able to obtain some of the bags. None of them contained Ana's body. However, her body has never been found to this day, and it sadly will never be. But we will get to that in a minute. So in regards to what he bought at like Home Goods and TJ Maxx, he bought towels, bath mats. And the stupid thing is, with those purchases, so he used a gift card that Ana had. And it's like what the hell, man? In regards to the other things that he had purchased at Lowe's, Home Goods, what police were able to see, because all those places have cameras, plastic liners, cleaning materials, a hacksaw, a hatchet, things like that. And those were part of the items that were actually recovered from one of the dumpsters. That one dumpster was Swampscott, where his mom lived. So again, there was trash bags that contained blood stains, that contained cleaning materials, the hacksaw, the hatchet, one of Ana's purses, boots worn by her, her COVID-19 card, jewelry, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what they found. So police got a search warrant to go to the home. They found blood and a bloody knife, blood in the basement, and then a bloody knife as well. He was arrested and charged with misleading police in the investigation. So he pled not guilty in court. And this was back on the warrants they had to search was January 8th, 2023. And he pled not guilty in court January 9th, 2023. So it was very quickly from when January 1st, when she was last seen, to January 8th, they have the warrants for the home. January 9th, he is arraigned. So the trial has ended. Last week, I have to think, like, time is moving so, like, December's crazy, right? So last Monday, when me and Liz were able to go to court and sit in on that, Liz did come on and we did talk about that. So I'm not going to go too heavy into that. But prior to the trial, we had seen some clips of Brian Walshe going to these different dumpsters, as well as some different stores, and making purchases. Because again, it's all on camera. Once the trial happened, we got to see all of these trips. And the most damning thing was actually when me and Liz were there, was one of the trips to Lowe's where he brought his 6-year-old son. That was, I still can't get that out of my mind of how disturbing that was. So in regards to the trial, so what we have not talked about yet since I was last live and did a show recapping this with you guys. So what the defense promised in opening statements was that Brian found Ana unresponsive in their bed on New Year's Day, but he did not kill her. He lied to law enforcement about his wife's whereabouts to protect his kids. That is what the defense said. The defense also said Brian Walshe will take the stand and he will tell you what happened. That is what the defense said. The prosecutors, they made it clear they did not say how Brian Walshe killed her. However, they walked the jury throughout the trial around his actions around his wife's disappearance. The Google searches, all the footage, all of the things that he purchased at these stores, all of the footage of him tossing heavy bags into these dumpsters. Again, driving around the state of Massachusetts. Yes, Massachusetts is not a huge state. It's not like Texas, for example, but you are a guy who's on house arrest, who's not to be leaving the house. The defense is trying to say, like, oh, well, you know, he misled police because he made a reservation for a restaurant for him and Ana, but he knew it was on house arrest. So he didn't want to, you know, they were going to break that. He was going to break in and he didn't want to tell police. It's like, no, they do not give a shit about that. When you lie about one thing, you lie about more. And I mean, clearly, here's where we are, right? So what the defense was trying to say in regards to her death, because why would a young, healthy woman just suddenly pass away? And does that happen? Yes, it happens. But they're trying to say it was, you know, sudden death syndrome, that she just passed away. So without a body, on the one hand, the defense knows what they're putting out there. You can't prove or disprove it, right? But of course, the prosecution very much clearly brought a much stronger case in regards to Brian Walshe. I was very impressed with what they brought forward. They left no stone unturned in regards to the way that they brought this information to the jury as well. And that's one of the things that I noticed when me and Liz were there, is what I really respect about certain law enforcement officers when they take the stand in trials. We know, like so many of the experts, they have all these credentials and degrees and whatnot. We know you're intelligent, and that's amazing for you. And that's amazing for us to be able to hear your interpretation of what happened. With that being said, most common people and most people on the jury do not have those credentials, do not have the education that you as an expert witness do. So you got to say it very clearly and very plainly so anybody can follow and say, I know exactly what that expert's trying to get across, right? And I'd say in most trials, things are pretty good with that. But then there are some, you watch it and you're just like, oh my God, like I can't follow what you're saying. I don't understand it because it's just so complex. You're not breaking it down. And when you as a viewer, when there's so many people watching it that are like, wait a minute, we don't follow. you think the jury's going to follow it too? Maybe not. Probably not. In this case, all of the expert witnesses for the state that testified were very crystal clear among everything across the board. And that was really well done. Very well done. I definitely commend the state for that. So quick pause to see quite a few people have entered the chat. I don't want to miss anybody. K-Doc, I know. Where is James Watson? Someone needs to do a well-being check on him. I like the photo in the upper right. Well, oh, the one with me, Paul, and Beckham from Spawn Ranch. Yes. Yes, of course you do. Of course you do, Steve Harris. Hey, PJ, good to see you. That's very possible that James Watson is doing that. Very, very possible. Well, no, he says he did. But I believe, was it the Apple Watch? There was something that synced that was able to track. Like, again, stay stupid. I'm so glad that he made those mistakes because think about it. Like, he went across the state going to places that were so, like, why would you go an hour and a half away to a Home Depot when there's one in your town? Same with all these dumpsters. Why would you go an hour out of your way to go to some random complex that you happen to find? And like, come on. So, I take about 10 to 15 years to gather that stuff together so it doesn't look suspicious. I know. He's like, first I'm here, and then he's not. Hey, Zach, good to see you. Hi, Richard. Good to see you too. Long time no see. Hope you and your cat, of course, and your family, but mostly your cat, are doing well. So, okay. Let's get back to Brian Walshe, right? So, the state, the Commonwealth, called almost 50 witnesses over 8 days of testimony. That included law enforcement, co-workers of Ana, friends of Ana, etc. In regards to the affair that was put forward, I mean, the gentleman who did take the stand, William Fastow, he did talk on the stand very openly about his relationship with Ana. And he came across to me, I have spoken to other people who viewed it very differently, and to each their own. I personally took him as very genuine, very sincere, and very raw and vulnerable on the stand. I did not get the impression that he was trying to hide anything from law enforcement or the jury. He just kind of, to me, put it all out there, which at the end of the day, did Ana deserve to be murdered for the actions that she did with William? No, nobody does, right? But nonetheless, he did take the stand as well. So the defense, right? We talked a little bit earlier in regards to how they said Ana died to them, which was unexpected. Why Brian Walshe disposed and dismembered her body. And they promised the jury that Brian Walshe would take the stand and tell everything that happened. So before we get to what actually happened after that, after those promises. So in regards to sudden death, when the state put their expert witnesses on, the defense I didn't necessarily take their cross exams as a victory. I don't think it was done very well. It was just kind of like, well, if somebody dies suddenly from this, what can you tell? And of course, it's like, well, without a body, I can't give specific answers, but kind of, it was, I mean, I get it that the burden is on the state, right? With any trial, the burden is on the state, and the defense just have to poke enough holes for reasonable doubt. The way the holes were being poked by the defense, I I don't think was very good. I did not think it was very good at the time watching it, and I still stand by that. So in regards to the damning iPad searches, one of the things that has stuck out to me big time, especially once the defense said they were going to be putting Brian on the stand, was you did all of these searches about how to dismember this, divorces in different states, collecting life insurance, all of that stuff, but very specific statements about dismembering a body. But what was one thing that was not searched? Sudden death. Not once was any search for how does a healthy woman, such and such of age, pass away? What happens if you wake up and your partner is dead? I could go over a whole list of things that Brian Walshe could have and should have searched if he was trying to go that route, and his defense was trying to get, but those searches never happened. Not once. So to me, not only is it telling what was searched, but it is damning of what he did not search. Okay. So the defense, once the state rested, and it was the defense's turn to put any witnesses forward, they rested. They did not call a single witness. They did not call Brian. They promised during opening arguments, Brian was going to take the stand. So right away, I was listening and I'm like, oh my God. Again, the burden of proof is on the state, but when you promise the jury something and you do not deliver, it doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make your side look good. I fully expected there to be experts in regards to sudden death in a healthy, grown, 30-something-year-old woman. That's what I was expecting. Again, it's a no-body case, but I was expecting something so that the jury kind of had that information where, okay, is it possible? I also more so expected a psychology expert to take the stand and explain in Brian's, the way he reacted, the way he took the actions that he did to dismember and dispose of Ana. Again, because the defense is trying to say, he was trying to spare his children. He didn't call law enforcement because he was afraid they would think it's him. And he didn't know what to do. He was freaked out and he didn't know what to do. Are there times when people kind of trauma happens and they kind of disassociate and maybe do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do? Oh my gosh, absolutely. That happens. Put an expert on to explain that, but you didn't. And I was just like, wow. And maybe just because I went to school for psychology, so that's my thing, and I'm very much interested in that. I was really expecting that, and it didn't happen. So I was like, okay, that's not good either. The jury. So we knew as the public that Brian Walshe, going into the trial before it started, pled guilty to misleading police and to dismembering and disposing of her body. The jury didn't know that. So going into this whole trial, the jury did not know that. So if you're thinking, wait a minute, why would Brian take these plead guilty and take these before the trial starts? Well, a few things. One, this whole time, all of these years, he's been saying, I don't know where Ana is. I don't know where Ana is. You did. And you're admitting to that. You're also admitting to dismembering and disposing of her, which now explains the iPad searches. So him admitting to this also now takes away the need for so many law enforcement officers to testify about all of those things because he's already pled. So now a lot of law enforcement doesn't need to take the stand to prove that he did all this and he knew where she was. He's admitted to it. But the jury didn't know that. But after closing arguments, the judge did tell the jury about that that he has pled guilty to those charges. So it was like, okay, all right. So the jury took it was a little over 5 hours to come up with the verdict. So it started about halfway through Friday and then carried into Monday. When it started Friday, I thought for sure we would have a verdict on Friday. I thought for sure. And when we didn't, and it went into the weekend, I thought, okay, I bet they're deliberating between whether it's first degree or second degree. Did the prosecution give enough for first degree? I think absolutely. But all it takes is one person on that jury to say or think, I don't think it was planned second. And then my fear was like, oh my gosh, what if there's a group that say yes first, no second, and there's a mistrial? Like that was in the back of my head. I knew he was going to be found guilty of something, but I'm like, what if they all can't agree on what? So, but we got the verdict on Monday. So it was guilty of first degree murder. So let me pull up my notes in regards to, and one thing that I want to say before we go into the sentencing and in regards to the closing arguments for both the state and the defense. Because I actually went back and listened to a bit of the trial just to kind of refresh my memory on a lot of things. And it's like at the time when I was listening, I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew that. And then it just like went into the back of my mind. But re-listening, I got very angry at the defense because it is Ana Walshe. It is not Ana Walshe, right? Witnesses, experts, family, friends who all took the stand for the state called her Ana. The prosecutors called her Ana. The defense attorneys for Brian would kind of go between the two, but called her Ana. And I was like, oh my God, you can't even say her name right. Yes, Brian is their client, but you can't even pronounce his wife's name right and be consistent with it. I really hope the jury picked that up too. I'm mad at myself because I picked it up and then I kind of put it in the back of my head and forgot about it and then re-listened and was like, oh my gosh, right. Because that's just fucked. It's just fucked. Get her name right. Says the girl who mispronounces names all the time. I get it. But like you're defending her husband. Get the name right. But here we are. So he was again found guilty of first-degree murder. And in regards to the two charges that he pled guilty to before the trial started, the judge was waiting to sentence him for that based on whatever happened with this trial. So now that he was found guilty of first-degree murder, we got that sentencing. But before I get to the sentencing, the closing arguments, and the reason I just kind of said what the outcome was going to be, it was more so just, I know most people are aware of that right now, but I think it actually does a little bit of explaining as to the way the state and the defense handled it. So first was the defense who took the stand, and it was Attorney Tipton. So there were not a lot of things that I took from that as memorable in regards to, wow, he really planted seeds of reasonable doubt in the jurors. I didn't sense that at all. I really almost felt, and I was messaging a lot with Liz when it was happening. And Liz was like, he sounds like already defeated. Like they already lost. He doesn't seem like he's arguing for his client's life. And I was just like, yeah, I feel the same way. Like, what is happening? Because he's a good attorney. Defense attorney Tipton is a good attorney. giving credit where credit is due. But in this, I'm like, what is, like, it's like he tossed in the towel before he even went up for closing arguments. And I felt trying to come across sympathetic for Ana, as he said, Ana, in regards to, oh, it is upsetting that she passed away and, all of this, but, he didn't murder her and all this. Nothing, I really, in my notes, don't have anything that kind of stood out as like reasonable doubt. The state did an excellent job, in my opinion, in regards to their closing arguments. Right away, she took the stand, one of the prosecutors, and said, Ana Walshe is dead because he killed her. Started out right with that and then laid it out very simply, very straightforward, very chronological, so that anybody listening is like, okay, I'm following you. I am following you, which means, you know what? The jury's following you too. So, the sentencing. Before the judge gave the sentencing, the state and the defense was able to say something. In the state, what they do is say, here, because the judge is the one that imposed the sentence, not the jury. So let me just make that clear. The state, the prosecution said, for first-degree murder, which he was found guilty of, here's what we're recommending and why. For misleading police, here's what we're recommending and why, in regards to the amount of years for a sentence, right? For dismembering and disposal of the body, here is what we're recommending that you take into account when sentencing him and why. It was very clear. And then the defense. Oh my God. I was at work. I had it playing out in the background. So I'm doing my thing and, getting my work done. And then I overhear the defense and I'm like, wait, what? So the defense, they've not found it. They've not found it. Tony, they'll never will. So okay, dog, 100%. I am convinced that I was kind of thinking after closing arguments, all right, he's going to say ineffective counsel. When the closing arguments happened, like, watch it. If you did not watch it, you see Attorney Tipton just sit there and he's like leaning back and he's like this. And I'm like, okay, there was victim impact statements. So for example, Ana's sister took the stand. Give some respect. He's just Attorney Tipton, just like this. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, act. Just pretend like you care. So I was like, all right, they're not even, I think they just tossed in the towel. And that was to give the defense attorneys their proper due. Look what they had to work with. Like, look what the actions and everything Brian Walshe did. They didn't have much wiggle room. They really didn't. So giving credit where credit is due, I don't know where they thought they were going to go. But when you give promises to the jury of, we're going to explain X, Y, and Z, and he's going to take the stand and he's going to tell you what happened. And then he doesn't. Again, he does not have to. The burden of stated proof is on the state. But for fuck's sake, you just promised the jury something and you didn't deliver. How does that make you look? Right? Thank you, Tony. So anyway, so the defense. I know I left you guys on a cliffhanger there and I went on a rant. So the defense gets up and makes their argument. And I was like, oh my God. Y'all, find it on Court TV, Law and Crime, all the things. You can find it on, it's all over YouTube. Go back to closing arguments and go to the defense and listen for yourself. I encourage you all to do that. Oh my gosh. It was infuriating. It was infuriating. because what the state had said in regards to their recommendation was that all of these things that the judge would sentence him, they wanted it consecutively, not concurrently. The difference, for those who do not know, so consecutively means that, for example, if you're sentenced to 5 to 10 years, you serve that 5 to 10 year sentence. And then if you're sentenced to another 20 years for X, Y, and Z, then you start that 20 years after you've served that first 5 to 10. And let's say there's a third thing that you're charged with of another 10 years. Then you start that 10-year sentence once you finish that 20 year before that, and then that 5 to 10 year before that. So it's you do one, and then the next one starts, and then the next one starts, which is the way I think it should always be, personally. Concurrently, however, is when, let's say you're sentenced to 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. They all run at the same time. So you're out at the 20-year mark, essentially, because the 5 and the 10 just kind of happen with the 20, right? So I little side rant here. I hate that, because to me, and especially when there's cases where there's multiple victims, and let's say they get 20 years for 6 victims, for different victims, for example, and then the sentence are concurrently, I'm like, so basically they're only serving time for one victim, technically. I hate that. I really, really hate that. But let me step back now. So the state wanted it consecutively, one after the other, after the other. The defense attorneys argued that that was, it was inhumane. It was inhumane to Brian. He is a loving father, a loving son, a loving friend to many. And to sentence him consecutively, and they use the word inhumane over and over and over again. And his defense attorney, she said, just because you could sentence him consecutively does not mean you should. So I'm like, wait a minute. We're talking inhumane, right? So, okay, was what happened to Ana dismembering and disposing of her body so that her kids, they'll never see her again. There's no grave for them to visit. She was thrown away literally with trash and burned in an incinerary amongst trash to protect them, according to the defense. They're going to grow up knowing that. They're going to grow up knowing that their father dismembered their mother in the basement while they were home. They're going to know their father, especially the 6-year-old son, used his own iPad, used his iPad to do those searches about how to dismember his mother. That 6-year-old son, inhumane, was brought on one of the Lowe's shopping trips and used the scanning gun to help his dad ring up items that he was purchasing, that Brian was purchasing, to completely dismember and dispose of this 6-year-old son's mother. You want to talk inhumane? All right, let's go tit for tat on inhumane, right? So I was blown away that was what the defense was going, that he's a loving father. Let's just let that sink in for a second, right? All right, now that we've had a pause for that to sink in. So the judge did not buy it. The judge did not buy it. What he was sentenced to was consecutively, so it's no less than 19 years for lying to police, no less than 2 years for improper disposal of his wife's body. I know, if you're thinking, Danny, did you just read that right? Yes, I did. Very interesting that the lying to police is no less than 19 years, but the disposing of Ana is no less than 2 for. But nonetheless, here's where we are. Again, no less than 19 years for lying to police, no less than 2 years for improper disposal of Ana's body. For first-degree murder, life without parole. So what the judge said, and again, I would encourage everybody to go back and listen to the judge's remarks. I absolutely loved this judge, by the way. So Judge Diane Frenier, and I'm probably mispronouncing her last name. I felt super fair to both the defense and the state, and to the jury, and to everyone who took the stand. She was no nonsense, but kind and very clear with everything. So I have to give props where props is due to the judge. So what she says, and I have a quote here, quote, "The seriousness of your acts cannot be overstated. Your acts in dismembering your wife's body and disposing of her remains in multiple area dumpsters can only be described as barbaric and incomprehensible." End quote. So the judge also said that she brought up the children, and I didn't get that quote. My apologies. I meant to go back and re-listen and get that, and I just wasn't able to today. But she put that in there like, you're saying that you did this for them, but you robbed them of their mother and a place for them to grieve. Like, you took all of that away. So, okay, K-Dog saying, what was the motive? Kane says she was having an affair. We don't know what the full motive was because he never said, right? But what was presented was she was having an affair, and the gentleman who took the stand did admit that. He was also, before he killed her, Googling searches like in regards to divorce, custody, paying alimony, the best states to file for divorce, things like that, right? Life insurance, she would get 2 times her base pay salary. She was earning $220 a year. So that would be, again, $440,000 that he would receive. So there's a lot. He was a con, and he was about to go most likely to prison for the art fraud charges. And he did get sentenced to prison time after he was in jail being held for the murder of his wife. But that was one of the things too, was that he was going to be going to jail. Ana now worked in DC, and she was going to move the children there. So there's a lot of reasons that I think it just all created the perfect storm in one thing after another. And one of the things that was put on trial, which was like, oh my God, such a bullshit thing to say. Like, don't even address it. Was when I'm talking to the defense. In regards to the affair, the defense attorney's trying to argue because one of Ana's friends said, she said she had a crush on someone, and she said she told Brian, and he was fine with it because he's not the jealous type. So Attorney Tipton, during the closing arguments, again, where I'm just thinking like, dude, like, are you just throwing in the towel before you even begin? He was just like, Brian Walshe wasn't a jealous guy. In fact, I wish he was more jealous about the, Ana having a crush on somebody. It's like, wait, what did you just say? That was crazy. But yeah, the judge made it very clear to him, like, where she stood, and I thought it was done very, very effectively. So he was taken away in handcuffs, and if you watch the footage and slow it down, you can see his mom, so Brian's mother, who's been there every day of the trial. She was there when me and Liz were there, sitting in a row by herself in the front, and she looks pissed. She looks pissed. She's just sitting there with her arms crossed as he's being taken away. I get that is her only son and her only child. She's going to, you love your children unconditionally, even when they're adults, even when they fuck up. But this is one of the things that like me and the Liz talk about all the time. It's like, how was she not called as a witness? He goes to see her. He disposes in her condo complex's dumpster all of like murder, like the murder's part of the murder stuff, right? The hacksaw, the hatchet, blood-stained clothing, her COVID card, jewelry, like all this stuff. And it's like, come on, how was she not called? So it just, yeah, very interesting, very interesting. So with that being said, what next? What next? Ana's body will never be recovered at this point. And that was one of the things where like talking to a few people kind of outside of YouTube, one of them, I believe it was a coworker, had said, maybe part of the sentencing or part of the plea that he took with the other charges should have been, where did you dispose of Ana's body? Like specifically, where did you dispose of her? And it wasn't. On the one hand, I get where that thought would have come from. But on the same time, it's like, it's not like she was buried in the woods and you'd have a chance to find some remains and do some type of proper burial. You can't do that in this case. We know it's so sad that he was, there in the defense is trying to spin it like, well, he, to protect the kids, he was just going to say to the kids that it's more harmful if she died. So I'm just going to say, oh, she left one day and just never came back. Really? That, like, no, you literally dismembered her, like putting, he's a piece of shit. So to be like, the woman that you pledged you'd love and take care of the rest of your life, like, no, yeah. If you really cared about your kids, like, you literally threw her away with trash. You drove around the state going up to trash dumpsters and just one by one disposed of her body. Evil, I don't think, sums up what he did. I think evil's putting it very nicely, what he did. Again, where do we go from here? He'll file an appeal, and it is his legal right to file an appeal. And I think we can all kind of contest that. What's he going to argue? Ineffective counsel. What else can he argue? And we will go from there. And of course, we'll talk about it as all that unfolds, because he's not the type that I think we can all agree will just kind of be like, I was sentenced and now I'm going to do my time for what I did. No. We have not heard the last of Brian Walshe. Not at all. Not at all. So that's that. But yeah, I guess I did do a little bit more of a deep dive than I thought I would tonight. Does anybody have any questions or even comments about this? Or what are you guys thinking? What are you guys feeling from this? It was one of those, it was just one of those heartbreaking things, because now, for those who don't know, in regards to the children, they were 2, 4, and 6 at the time of the murder. They're all now in state custody, it's just so sad, because Ana's mother is in Serbia. Her sister is in Canada, and I don't know the legality of why they cannot go across the border and live with her. I don't know that reason. They're now in state custody, and it's just so sad. It is so sad. The judge did say for closing arguments and victim impact statements that she did receive letters from the DCF workers who were working with the children. So she did read those, but those were not made public. So we, as the public, do not know what was said. And I think that's for the best. It's none of our business. And the kids have, what they've been through is so incredibly traumatic. And, especially the younger one will have no memory of his mother. And that's just so sad. But what will they all have memory of? Unfortunately, in the society that we're in, it's all online. This trial, what their dad did, it's horrific. So let's see. Oh, Tony Stewart, 100%. There are so many murders that happen where, my spouse, whether it's a male killing his female partner, or female killing their male partner because they cheated on them and had an affair. That definitely happens. In this case, there was not just Ana having and not that that's ever an excuse to be like, oh, well, okay. Like, no, never, first and foremost. But there was also so many other things that was going on with Brian, that he was, to me, honestly, I felt losing control, completely losing control. He's about to go to jail for art fraud. Ana was going to move, take the kids. She liked somebody else. I think it was all these things. And it's kind of like, if I can't have you, nobody can, including our own children. Parents can't be forced to testify against their children in many cases. You're right, K-Dog. And she supported Brian throughout. So would she take the stand and say anything damning against her son? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yeah, the state still could have put her on as a potential witness and not called her, but then she wouldn't be allowed to be in the courtroom. So that's a possibility too. But I mean, again, she would say anything she could to protect her son. So I get what you're saying, K-Dog. Absolutely. Hello, Karen Diamonds. Yes, thank you. Selena she's still going through a little bit of upper respiratory infection, but she is doing much better, and she is eating and drinking and all of that. Just very congested, but she's doing well. Thank you. Oh, it is. I mean, it is. I'm not downplaying that at all. I think I'm just saying, does it justify somebody murdering somebody? No, it does not at all, ever. But in regards to, is a major betrayal? Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. No argument on that. I was wrong about parents, but many times prosecutors don't do it. Right, K-Dog. Yeah, totally. I know, PJ, right? That's what I take away from that is that. And again, to me, like, being in that courtroom and seeing that footage that was never released to the public before of him walking into, again, Home Depot, Lowe's, and bringing his son with him when he walked in, and they blurred his son's face, but walking in with his son and knowing what he was buying, and I'm like, you brought your kid with you to pick up stuff to dismember his mother. And the poor kid, the little scanning gun at the store for self-checkout that's fun for a kid. So he's helping his dad ring up these items. Same trip. Again, here's Brian, like, oh my gosh, what do I do? She died unexpectedly. I panicked. So concerned for his kids, right? Same trip. We all know self-checkout has the cameras, right? So Brian, during that same trip, sees the camera, and then runs his hands through his hair while smirking. It's like, you son of a bitch. Like, really? Really? There's been many screenshots of that have been online, and it's disgusting. So if that's how you are when you're panicked and care so much, it's just it's so bullshit. It's so bullshit. And I'm really thankful that the jury saw that and nothing was lost on them. I mean, Kane, right? But then there would be no need for most true crime coverage, because then if people were rational adults of like, hey, you know what, we've just grown apart and this just isn't working. But it's wishful thinking, right? Why ruin your children's life and your life? Just walk away. Kate, 100%. And we see this time and time and time again, right, Kane? Where now these children, in this case, they don't have their mother, but they don't have their father. And their father's the one that did this to their mother. They're parentless, and now they are in state's custody. Like, that is fucked. But think of how many other similar situations where now they've lost both parents. So when the parent that does the killing of the spouse, like, I don't want to give up custody, or I don't want, whatever the rationale is in their mind, right? You're not doing it for your kids. You're doing it for yourself. You're selfish, and you're doing this for yourself. You are not thinking of your children at all. Because in the end, you will get caught and you will go to jail, and now your children do not have a single parent. And it just also blows my mind, and I know we've talked about this with other cases, but how many times, and again, people like all these criminals, stay stupid. Like, please stay stupid. Make it easy for detectives to find what you did and to hold you accountable. Please stay stupid. But internet searches, cell phone tracking, whatnot, like all these other people that got arrested and who committed these similar crimes and went to jail because of their internet searches or leaving behind DNA and X, Y, and Z, right? The list is long. You think, yeah, they got caught, but I won't. Like, what? And I think it just goes back into that narcissistic, like, I'm smarter than everybody else in the room. They all got caught, but I won't. I'm the smartest person in the room. You know what I mean? That's where I think it falls back to. No, she moved to DC for work anyway, and she was going to take the kids, and he was going to jail for art fraud. I think it was going to happen regardless. I really do. There are just certain people that have to be in control. And when they start to lose that control, they spiral. And again, it's one of those, if I can't have you, nobody else will. And even if the affair didn't happen, I think her living on the outside with those children and taking them to DC where she worked, which she was the sole breadwinner, to be perfectly honest, he wouldn't be okay with that. So I respectfully disagree. K-Dog says Rob Reiner's daughter found him murdered and knew her brother did it. I can't imagine how she handles that. Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, traumatic. There's just certain trauma that you will never get over. And the sad thing is, I mean, the Brian Walshe and Ana Walshe's children were so young that they're not on social media right now. They're young enough that they can be shielded from a lot of this, right? But Rob Reiner's daughter, they don't even have the opportunity to grieve privately. It's just so public and everywhere they turn. You can't open up the internet. If you go to MSN or whatnot, like there's headlines about this. You can't open up Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Did I say that already? Like, all of the sites, and it's there. So like she doesn't, in Rob Reiner's case, doesn't even have the opportunity to, or even on the TV with the news, to grieve privately. So it's just trauma on top of like the world knows you're going through trauma, which sucks. Yeah, and to have, somebody, a family member do it is just, so I don't know what their relationship was, her and her brother, at this point in time, but she essentially lost her entire family that day for good. Yeah, absolutely. And we will definitely talk about more about this as time unfolds. And I think especially maybe next week, we'll kind of talk more about it too. It's just horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So with that being said, thank you everybody for joining me tonight for the, for the weekly True Crime and Chill, for the Brian Walshe trial update, as well as justice for Ana Walshe. And yes, it is Ana. Defense, get her name right. Just a suggestion for when the appeal comes. Get her name right. So anyway, if anybody has any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. If you're watching this on replay, again, get ready for book club. It is coming up fast with Christmas next week. Like, y'all, it's going to be here before you know it. And then it'll be time for book club. So lots to do, lots to do. I am planning on doing a show on Tuesday night. So let's plan for that. And we'll just kind of go from there, right? So, all right, everybody, I will see you next week. Again, thank you all so much for hanging out with me tonight. And thank you, again, it means more than you know, for the well wishes for my cats. Because, yeah, it's first Cosmo, now Selena, but getting through it. We are getting through it. She is powering through. So everybody have a good rest of your evening and good rest of your weekend. So remember, until next time, everybody, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.